Have you ever wondered how a company goes from, total operational chaos to a slick, data-driven machine? Well, today we're going to pull back the curtain on that exact journey. We're going to walk through a real-world blueprint that shows how you can transform a business, one single, deliberate step at a time.
This is the question, right? The one that keeps leaders up at night. You're dealing with stockouts, your forecasts are all over the place, reports are always late, and your people are getting frustrated. Everything feels connected, and it's so complex it can be paralyzing. I mean, where do you even begin?
Well, the answer is actually pretty simple. You don't. You don't try to fix everything all at once. The key is to find the one most important thread, and you just start pulling. You untangle that first knot, and that lets you lay down your first building block. And that's the big idea for today. Transformation isn't one giant leap. It's a sequence of smart, connected wins. So, where do we lay that very first block? We go right to the heart of the operation, escaping the absolute maze of manual production planning. This is where all the chaos was really hitting home. I mean, this slide really says it all. The before state on the left, it's a planner's worst nightmare. We're talking pure guesswork, which means you're constantly running out of the stuff people actually want to buy, while other products are just sitting there collecting dust. It was slow, it was full of mistakes. The goal was to get to the after state on the right. Organized, optimized, and totally predictable.
The very first building block was a system called MRP. Now, don't let the acronym scare you off. Just think of it like a master recipe for the entire factory. It looks at everything you need to make, it checks what you already have in your pantry, your raw materials, and then it creates this super intelligent shopping list that tells you exactly what to buy and exactly when you need it.
And this system was seriously powerful. It could take a finished product and just explode it into all of its individual parts. It could automatically figure out the smartest quantities to order. It could even do a quick check to see if the factory had enough capacity to actually handle all the work. The bottom line is, this first block brought some fundamental order to the production floor. Okay, so block one is in place. The factory has its recipe book. But what good is a perfect recipe if your main ingredient list, what your customers actually want, is completely wrong? That brings us to our next section, building a much smarter engine. And here was the new problem. The MRP system was doing its job, but it was being fed bad information. It was a classic case of garbage in, garbage out. Demand would suddenly spike because of a holiday or a big sale, and the forecast just couldn't see it coming. And this led to constant, frantic changes to the production plan, which basically undid all the stability they had just worked so hard to create. So what they did was build a proper forecasting pipeline. First, they had to clean up years of messy sales data. Then, and this is the cool part, instead of just picking one forecasting method, they created a whole team of different models, from simple to super advanced, and basically had them compete against each other. The system would then automatically pick the winning model for every single product. This meant the planning system was finally getting a clear, intelligent signal about what was just around the corner. But having a great forecast isn't enough. You've got to make sure everyone in the company actually uses it. And that's where this next thing, called S&OP, comes in. The best way to think about it is like a mandatory monthly family meeting for the whole business. Sales, operations, finance, they all sit down, look at the exact same data from that new forecasting engine, and they agree on one single unified plan. No more silos and way fewer surprises. All right, let's move on to our next block. We have a stable planning system. We have a smart forecasting engine feeding it good data. Now we need to make sure everybody can actually see what's happening in real time. It was time to make the invisible visible. This quote just perfectly captures the pain. All this critical information was basically trapped in a spreadsheet on some person's computer. So if that person was busy or, heaven forbid, on vacation, nobody knew what was going on. The reports were always looking in the rearview mirror, showing up way too late to actually be useful. And this chart, wow, this just brilliantly shows you the impact of what they did. They went from a manual reporting process that took a full week to automated dashboards that refreshed pretty much in real time. What used to take 7 days now took less than 1. That is an absolute game changer for how fast you can make decisions. And all of a sudden, everyone in the company could see the most critical numbers right on their screen. Are we shipping to customers on time? How much inventory are we sitting on? And maybe most importantly, why are we late? The real root causes of problems were no longer hiding in the shadows. So far, we've talked a lot about systems and data and processes. But a true transformation isn't just about the tech. The next set of building blocks focused on something even more important, the actual human experience of the employees.
I mean, this is one of the most fundamental questions an employee can ask, right? And before all this, the answer was slow and it was really inconsistent. The whole annual review cycle was this manual, error-prone mess that just created a ton of uncertainty and frustration. The solution here was just brilliant in its simplicity. They built a simulator. So now managers could run a bunch of different scenarios for raises in an instant, checking the budget impact and making sure everything was equitable internally. This replaced a really painful, slow process with one that was fast, consistent, and, most importantly, fair. And here's the other huge question that really defines an employee's experience. If you can't see the path forward, your motivation just plummets. And that was exactly the problem. It was this confusing jungle of job titles with no clear way to move up. And just look at this cleanup operation. They collapsed over 80 confusing job titles down into 10 clear, understandable levels. They defined exactly what it takes to get from one level to the next, and they made the pay bands for each level completely transparent. They literally turned a maze into a ladder.
So, we've walked through all of these building blocks, from planning and forecasting to visibility and the human experience. Now let's kind of zoom out and look at the blueprint for change itself, the biggest lessons from this entire journey.
These 4 lessons from the journey are just pure gold. First, data ownership is absolutely non-negotiable. If no one owns the data, even the fanciest dashboards are eventually going to break. Second, you have to chain your systems together. A great forecast is totally useless if it doesn't automatically feed your production plan. Third, unify your data. When you put HR and production metrics in one place, you get this single cockpit view to make way smarter decisions. And finally, maybe the most important lesson of all, change isn't really about the tools, it's about clarifying who does what and when. It's people and process first and foremost. And of course, the work doesn't just stop. Transformation is a continuous process. So here's the really pragmatic plan for the next 6 months. Double down on data quality in the first 90 days. And then, by day 180, get full integration and expand self-service tools for employees. It's a clear, actionable roadmap forward. So we end up where we began, but this time with a question for you. This whole journey shows that real transformation isn't one giant, scary project. It's a logical sequence of building blocks. So the crucial question to take away from all this is, when you look at your own organization, at your own team, what is the first, most foundational block that you need to put in place?